TV show called Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced and get happy with Dr. Marissa. And this show is about hope and happiness. So there's no gossip, no scandal. Instead, I want you to focus on your own reality show and how you can be happy 88% of the time. So I have shows and topics.
Sunday, Monday, happy days. Tuesday, Wednesday, happy days. Thursday, Friday, happy days.
Monday, Tuesday,
Happy days.
Wednesday, Thursday,
Happy days.
Friday, whatever.
Happy days.
What a day.
I love you.
I love you too.
Best known as the mom from Happy Days, and she is a delightful 89-year young Marion Ross to my studio. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Dr. Marissa, this is such a treat for me.
Oh.
My goodness, you're a wonderment.
Which is exactly the kind of guest that I like. Those who have gone through life, good and bad, and then taken those experiences to alchemize them into the person they are now and doing good on the planet. I'd like you to welcome Corey Feldman.
If you're grateful for it and you say right away, thank you, God. Oh, my God, it's so beautiful. I'm so blessed. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Then guess what? More good things will come to you.
Does this sound familiar at all? She's back again to mark my Cancer Awareness and Prevention Month show. Please welcome Fran Drescher. Hi, Fran.
On and supporting cancer schmance. I really appreciate it.
So what would you say are some of the biggest myths, Fran, that people have about cancer?
Well, I would say that they think that there's a cure for it.
Okay.
Instead of a cause for it.
This is the first call-in show when I get to be Dr. Marissa, the kinder, gentler Dr. Laura. And people call in to get their life tires balanced and their critical thinking or their BS, their belief systems, smog checked. And today I am delighted to have Malie calling in from Birmingham, Alabama.
We could go 90 days and end up having terrible sex. And then you say, well, the relationship's not all about sex. Well, if I'm not getting great sex from you, then I'm going to get it from somebody else. Right?
That moose just got put on the table. And I see Josh and Jim.
I have to agree
You're
with Clyde.
both nodding. Ramon's sort of half nodding because his wife's listening. But
I understood what was going to happen if Muhammad Ali's youngest daughter, made public that I was going to become a boxer. So I wanted to make sure this was the path that I wanted to go down.
You are absolutely fabulous, beautiful inside and out. And I'm giving you Dr. Marissa's Beneficial Presence on the Planet Award today.
Thank you.
Just sit right back and you'll hear a tale of a fateful trip that started from this tropic point.
When I go, I'm gone.
Are you lonely?
No.
Nah, I knew that was going to be
But
the
I
answer.
I surround myself with people. I mean, I'm always the one cooking for things. But I'm always the one that decorates first and come to my house. All the orphans that have no place.
I'm going to have no place to go, so I can come over.
Come on over.
And life is so amazing if we can see it.
Jump off that exhausting hamster wheel and into balanced living with Dr. Marissa.
Promise you joy in the mystery.
Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, laugh, love, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And welcome. You're tuned in to Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on NBC News, CNBC News, and NBC Sports radio station KCAA, AM 1050, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere. iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, TuneIn, Audible, Amazon Music, TV Live, Rumble, Podchaser, Spreaker, and more. Why so many places? Because I want to maximize my splatter zone for more hope and happiness, because there's no gossip, no scandal, and no K-words, no Kanye talk, formerly known or now known talk on this show, because I want you to focus on your own reality show and how you can be happy 88% of the time. So I have topics and guests to that end, and today is no exception. So delighted. This is your new Wednesday series called Doctors in the House. You know me, but you may or may not have already tuned in to my very special co-host every Wednesday. Her name is Dr. Tiffanie Tate, and she is a OBGyn, veteran, retired. She's got cooking and singing and plays. She does it all. Renaissance woman that she is. Please welcome her back to the studio. This is Doctors in the House, Dr. Marissa and
Dr. Tiffanie Tate.
And I'm so delighted that she brought a friend today. She has a wonderful guest who is an author, and her name is Jean Perry. Welcome to the show.
Absolutely.
And I'm delighted we're going to get to know you more after we have breakfast. So y'all know this last year, I wanted you to work your muscle to take care of your own mental health. So first thing in the morning, we do 8 specific gratitudes very quickly. And since there's 3 of us, we'll get that done very quickly. And then the bottom of the bun is, what do you like about yourself? Because it's my BS, my belief system, that the hallmark of good mental health is the ability to self-care, self-love, self-approve, and that's why we do this. So here we go. I am grateful for fire alarm testing. Because in the long run, it keeps us safe. What are you grateful for, Dr. Tiffanie?
I am grateful for, I guess, fire extinguishers.
And Jean Perry, what are you grateful for?
I'm grateful for being a woman.
I'm grateful for the sun that is always shining somewhere. Dr. Tiffanie?
I'm actually grateful for overcast because it's nice and cool because it has been 100 degrees lately.
I'm grateful for reading books.
I'm grateful for being African American.
Beautiful. Okay. And Dr. Tiffanie?
I am grateful for the ability to write books.
Beautiful. Jean, you get the last gratitude.
I'm grateful for having one sister 7 years older than.
Wow. That's awesome. Now, appreciations, Dr. Tiffanie, take it away.
I am grateful for my ability to cook.
I appreciate my ability to hit the mute button.
I'm grateful for being born in and living in the United States of America.
I appreciate that I have great taste buds that love the deliciousness of life.
I appreciate my ability to sing.
I appreciate my ability to forgive.
I appreciate that I was a teenager during the civil rights.
Ooh.
I appreciate my ability to love. Go ahead, Jean.
I appreciate that my neighbors were very involved in the civil rights movement and housed young people on their way to the southern states during the 1960s.
Okay, wonderful. I appreciate my children and my ability to love them.
Beautiful. And now we're going to jump right in. Thank you for participating in Breakfast with Dr. Marissa and my co-host,
Dr. Tiffanie Tate.
And her very special guest today,
Jean Perry, author.
Yeah, author. And we're just so delighted. We're going to jump right in now to find out a little more about Jean Perry and the book that she wrote. And Dr. Tiffanie, I'm going to let you.
Okay, wonderful. I will go ahead and introduce Jean. I had the privilege of meeting Jean because she is going to be one of the authors with me in the Mahogany Bookshelf booth at the event that we're going to be at on October 21st at the Taste of Soul. And basically, she has been a couple of things. She has been an elementary school teacher for 20 years in Los Angeles, and she has also been a reporter for the New York Daily News. And she actually did a story on childhood obesity that won her an American Heart Association award. So she is an accomplished writer within her own right before she even wrote her book. And I will let her tell us a little bit about her book, but she is an accomplished teacher as well as writer within her own right. So take it away, Jean, and tell us a little bit about your book.
Well, thank you so much. I am an indie author. I published my book. The name of the book is Mosey, Mozay, of Pepperwick. And Pepperwick is the name of a plantation, fictitious. And Mosey has had 7 years of education at this plantation because the planters chose him to be a valet and companion to their son. So he is very literate, he can read and write, and he accepts both the adulation from other enslaved people as well as jealousy from other enslaved people.
Okay, well, that's interesting. But before you tell us more about your book, tell us a little bit more about you. After teaching, what made you go into teaching?
I think what made me go into teaching was the fact that I was a lifelong reader, even as a child. And my favorite place to be, besides church, was the public library. I remember taking the borrower's pledge. I'm not sure that they do that anymore, but you would get on a little step stool and raise your hand and follow the librarian as you promised to take care of your books and to return them. And if you forgot to return on time, to be responsible and pay the fee. So I came to books just through the air almost. My mother always read to me, and it seemed that I felt comfortable writing. I started writing poetry when I was 9, and I got really upset when my older sister said, "Did you really write that, or did you copy it from someplace?" So I got A's in English and was always ready to do a composition, and that was that. That was my life path.
Okay. Now, what college did you go to?
Beautiful.
I started out at fashion because I wanted to write in that which would mean writing for newspapers then, fashion newspapers and magazines. And then the civil rights movement was and more than just fashion. So I was able to for all of my FI get that time was junior college, 2 years, and I made an appointment with the professor at NYU who was head of the journalism department and went in to see him and was successful in transferring all 60 or 61 credits. So I went to NYU as a junior on a scholarship, majoring in journalism with a minor in education.
Okay, so at NYU.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Fabulous. I'm going to jump in here for a second. I'm fascinated by a number of things that came out in the gratitude sandwich, actually. You were part of the civil rights movement. So even though you look ageless and like you use oil of Olay, can I ask how young you are?
I am 77 years young.
Wow. Beautiful. So that experience in and of itself had to be so incredible. What were the things that you remembered about doing that march, and how did that impact you in your desire to bring about a story like Mosaic?
Well, as I said, my neighbors were very influential in the civil rights movement. They were members of Congress on Racial Equality Corps, and this was a interracial couple, and they housed mainly students and other young people who were on their way to the southern states. I can remember holding my banner in front of Woolworth store saying, the banner said, Woolworth makes dollars, but it doesn't make sense. And I had the pleasure to talk to many of the students who were staying with my upstairs neighbor. I was invited to join SNCC by a classmate at Julia Richmond High School on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. And my mother wouldn't let me go. She said it's just too dangerous. But I did follow the movement in the newspapers. They were very influential because every day there was something major going on in the country. So
Wow. Can we, just so people who are listening on the radio, SNCC is the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, just for people who are not familiar with what SNCC is.
Thank you for that, Dr. Tiffany. I was just about to ask her the same thing. And if you've just tuned in and you're wondering what's going on in the studio today, you are listening and watching. Take my advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, NBC News Radio, AM 1050, FM 106.5, streaming everywhere, home to the Asian Oprah. And it is our Wednesday special series, Doctors in the House, with Dr. Marissa and
Dr. Tiffanie Tate.
And she's brought here a fascinating woman who's been through quite a bit. She's an author, and we're talking about how her memories and her experience with marching, actually, in the civil rights movement. And you said the word dangerous. Your mom didn't let you go because it was dangerous. This is the first time that I am making that affiliation with the danger of that movement. I don't think that's something we maybe necessarily appreciate, that it was dangerous. This was not express your rights, right? It was a lot of cojones involved in being able to step out and say, this is not right. How old were you at the time?
I was in high school, so I was about 16, a junior in high school, 17, and I was very disappointed that my mother wouldn't let me go. But as things went on and there was so much violence and so many murders, I began to understood her outlook.
Beautiful. Dr. Tiffanie, next question.
Okay. And once when you decided to transition into writing your book, what motivated you to begin to write your book?
Going to a family reunion, it is so emotional to begin to meet aunts, uncles, cousins, people who are in laws when you have not met them before, and you begin to exchange your stories. And I found out that my grandfather was a blacksmith in Hillary, Santee area in South Carolina. And I got these stories about him from an aunt. So I believed them and then I didn't believe them. But what an emotional time it was for me when, in doing research for the book, I decided I would go to Columbia, South Carolina, to the University of South Carolina, where they have really wonderful libraries where you can see firsthand documents. My very first day there, I was staying in a hotel and went to the Caroliniana Library at University of South Carolina, and browsing, I came across a book with my grandfather's name in it. And it said simply, it was just one line. It said, Moses Perry ran a thriving blacksmithing business. And I broke into tears because this was the confirmation of my aunt's stories. They weren't things that she made up. Here it was in this book that this was real. And that really set a fire under me. It was a slow burning fire because it took 20 years to write this book, because I was teaching at the time. And so lesson plans had to come first. But I eventually got through it because I persevered, because I kept at it. And when you keep at things, they will come to fruition.
That's
So,
beautiful.
so were you able to see that your grandfather was a slave who became free, or were you able to follow that your family were slaves, or how did that transition?
Well, I combine history with fiction. So the character Mose is a fictional character, but in his adventures and in him developing from being a loner on the plantation, because he's the only illiterate African American there, he begins to trust people, because if he wants to be free, he has to trust people and become part of a group, maybe not knowing all the answers in advance, but beginning to open up and get to know people, feeling comfortable with himself, trusting in himself, becoming more confident. So all of this is woven story through this character, Mose, as he develops. It's very much historical fiction as well as character development. If I had it to do over again, I have notebooks and notebooks full of uh, all of the research that I did. And that has contributed to the book having an acknowledgement section and also a reference section, so that readers, as they're reading and hopefully enjoying the book, I'm sure they will stop. Well, many of them will stop and say, is this really real? Is this part true? So I have a wonderful references section, which hopefully maybe I can read a little bit from it today, that will tell readers about true life events that people lived through at that time.
Beautiful. If you've just tuned in and you're wondering what's going on in studio, this is Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA. the station that leaves no listener behind, NBC News Radio, home to the Asian Oprah. We do have a very special guest today on our special series called Doctors in the House with Dr. Marissa and
Dr. Tiffanie Tate.
And her name is Jean Perry. She's the author of Mosaic of Pepperwick. And it is a part fiction, part true story of her family, right? Your blacksmith, you wove that into there, your grandfather. And I want to go to the emotional side. You said when you saw that book in the library, you started crying. This whole journey of writing this book, tell me what kinds of emotions, what was behind the tears, what's behind the smiles that I see. Tell me a bit more about the emotional journey in writing this book.
Well, as a elementary school teacher and working in underserved neighborhoods in Los Angeles, I saw how many children had real challenges to confront at very early ages. And they were very interested in real life events. Whenever my class got restless at the end of the day, if I went to social studies, full focus. So that gave me the idea that even at 7, 8 years of age, they were interested in what went on in the real world and they wanted real answers. Many of them, due to their situations at home, did not get to libraries as much as I would wish they had. So I made sure that I purchased out of pocket my own set of library books every year that were about all kinds of subjects. So having this exposure to children one on one and in groups made me want to go on and really shape these facts and family stories into a book. And it's a book for, I would say, 5th grade and up. I tried to be very careful with the vocabulary so that it would be accessible. But I would say anybody from grade 5 through young adult would find it interesting. And I've gotten good feedback from the whole range of ages. It's a lot of history in it and a lot of emotion because you see him growing up and dealing with realities that are very difficult, very acute, doesn't have much backup, but has himself and is very grounded. And so that was the chief emotion, I think, that got me through. I had to be grounded and had to have perseverance and had to uh, do what needed to be done, whether I felt like it or not. And I'm still struggling with that. I feel I definitely need more discipline. It's good to have the emotion and the inspiration, but discipline is very important because that means when you don't feel like doing, you go ahead and do, and you do your best.
Yes, sounds good. I think that is an excellent point. And that is the flyer for the Mahogany Bookshelf booth that we will be at for the Taste of Soul on October 21st in Inglewood. And we will be there with 4 other authors. And she will be there signing her book. I will be there selling my book, Bad Touching, as well as Poetry, 108 Poetic Flows on Life, Love, and Liturgical Issues. You will be there and be able to meet us both. And that will be a wonderful opportunity.
Absolutely. And that's why I popped it up. I wanted to make sure that we directed people. You get to meet both of my in studio, beautiful inside and out women here. My co-host for Wednesdays, Doctors in the House, Dr. Tiffanie Tate, and her guest, Jean Perry, the author of Mosaic of Pepperwick. And I love what you just said, Jean, about the blissipline, as I call it, of it's emotion is one thing, but actually following and I call it the gospel according to Nike. Just do it. I think that saying, desire or dreaming or intention or wanting without action is a fantasy. So it is true. If you're listening right now and you're wondering, wow, look at all the book accomplishments, writing. Jean was teaching full time as an elementary school teacher and did the slow route, but got her book done 20 years. I and Dr. Tiffany is working on her third, I believe, right now.
Yes.
I only have one, which is 8 Ways to Happiness from Wherever You Are. It's so important. I believe that every single person has at least one book in them. And I love the fact that indie offers, independent publishing offers that opportunity for you to do that. So that's my little Happy 88 challenge. Just do it. Go and write your book. Jean, when you were writing and your experience with teaching in the public school system, inner city, as I thought I heard that, your take and watching what's been happening with race, with racism, with equality, with black and brown equality. Tell me what you have learned or what you think still needs to happen. Loaded question.
I think racism is a fact of life. You cannot run from it. You must confront it. And you must decide, each person for themselves, how that confrontation will look. The best way to develop in America, I feel, is through education. So you're either going to some kind of school to learn whatever your major might be, or you are learning a trade. Most of the other ways, such as smash and grab, don't work out. It's only through education or learning a trade that you can get the job that will give you security so that you can have a full life despite racism. Um, Changing minds and hearts, that's a possibility. But if you don't encounter a changed mind and a changed heart, you had better have some education or a trade uh, in you that can make it so that you can survive in America. And my upset is when people don't want to go through with that. It's so important that people have a good example when they're very young. And so when you don't have parents who don't get up every morning and go to work and then come home tired and complain about work, but keep going to work anyway, you're really at a disadvantage. And you then have to read some books, listen to some music that will, look at a TV show or a film that will give you the kind of shot of adrenaline that you need to say, I may not have the examples in front of me, but I will not use that as an excuse. And I understand America. I know what I have to do, and I will make it happen. We can't change everybody's mind and heart.
Beautiful words, important words to hear, and that individual responsibility as well. I'm a big believer in what you permit, you promote.
Yeah.
And so it's always been my BS, my belief system, that it's not just about black and brown. Everyone, especially those who are from the majority race. I'm not going to say, some of the buzzwords that tick people off, but certainly the majority race that has a larger voice. It's very important to actually say, That's not funny. That's not true. Everybody, yes, has the freedom of speech. That is in our Constitution. But what I think that people forget, that you have to take responsibility for what you are saying. So I think if everybody followed that, we would have way less of the hate speech going on and all of that. Dr. Tiffanie, what are your reactions and you've known Jean a lot longer than I have, but what's your take on that question as well?
Well, I will say this. I'm going to read a poem from my book, and it's called Sticks and Stones, from my book called Poetry, 108 Poetic Flows of Life's Love and Liturgical Issues. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but bones mend. Hateful words can pierce a soul, and the damage may never end. The stain of slavery still casts a shadow in all aspects of American life. Black people are expected to get over slavery without any strife. People of color have been relegated to urban hoods and underfunded schools. When we question the status quo, we are called entitled fools. We have drifted from a society of we to one of me. Let us try to get back to we the people as we try to have everyone treated equal. And that's where I will end.
Wonderful. A great way to express that sentiment. Miss Creativity. I thought I was creative until I met my co-host here. But you have three creative women on set today. I'm so glad you've tuned in. You are tuned in to Take My Advice. I'm not using a Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, NBC News Radio, and home to the Asian Oprah, and streaming everywhere, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, and my YouTube TV channel, which is My Show Central. 1,020 shows now and counting, 593 consecutive weeks. So glad that you're here, that you've tuned in, and that you are listening to some really important words, not just about racism, but about this wonderful book that is being brought to us by Jean Perry. She is going to be at the Taste of Soul, and that is coming up. Go ahead and give me a little more. I just took off of that ad, but I will bring it back.
Yeah, October 21st, Saturday, October 21st from 10 to 7 in the Mahogany Bookshelf booth, and I will be there with her. And we will both be there signing books and selling our books.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Can you get the book any other place, Jean?
The book Mosaic of Pepperwick is available on Amazon. It's also available from Book Baby, BOOKBY, bookbaby.com, and a couple of other places also. You can just put that title in, Mosaic of Pepperwick, Jean Perry, or Jean Perry author on Facebook, and you will find ways to purchase it.
Fantastic. I was just going to try to bring up Book Baby. I've never heard of that, but let me just do that because I love learning new things.
Yes.
And here is the website. I love my ability to do this as well. Thank you, StreamYard. All right. So you just go to Book Baby, and then you would go to, where's the search? Here we go. Let's see if this works. Jean Perry. Nope. Okay, so we need, let's see. Let's see. The title of the book, Mosaic. Well, my memory.
Mozay.
Mozay.
Of Pepperwick. And that's with WIC.
Pepper.
Uh-huh.
I
With,
lost the last part.
oh,
Pepperwick. That's
yes.
it. Okay, let's see if this one works. Okay, you are gonna have to contact them because it's not showing up. So the
You know,
good news is,
probably, let me say this. When you go to that site, you have to go to bookshop. You have to go to their bookshop.
oh, okay, that helps.
Yeah.
Book
And you
printing.
can Amazon as well. But
Okay, let's go to Amazon. That's easy. All right, beautiful. Is there anything we haven't asked you that you would like to share about your book?
well, this was my first book, and I really didn't know where to go to have it published. And so I asked around. We'll say this about Book Baby. If you go, just remember, go to bookshop, have me under juvenile. But as I say, it's for teens and young adults as well. You have to go to the bookshop. Now, the thing about self-publishing, people have different positives and negative. When I got a referral from a friend, someone who had used Book Baby, said there are many, but here's the thing about Book Baby. They will hold your hand. And particularly if you are an older author or you are someone who is not very technically proficient, I recommend Book Baby. Are they more expensive? Yes, they are. But a human being will pick up the phone. And not just the first time you call, make an order. They will stay with you during the entire process. And I found that the quality of the book, the paper, the cover, the printing, the font has been commented on by so many people who have read the book. Say, this looks as good as anything put out by a major publishing company. So, because of the end result, the quality of the product, and because of that holding, I think that is worth the extra dollars, or maybe you save up. Maybe you save up a year until you can go there. There are many other sites as well. You're doing most of the work, but you will be frustrated because you may not get there. I that you have it, Book Baby.
Beautiful. Dr. Tiffany, any other questions that you have for Jean Perry?
No.
No. Okay. Well, then I'm going to jump right in again. So, advice to new authors. You just gave a great for indie authors about a specific place to go. What were besides the gospel according to Nike, just do it? What were some of the other tools that you used to be able to finish the book?
I use library. College libraries are great repository of uh, documents from whatever searching if you're writing historical fiction. Also, college libraries and public libraries too give you access to librarians who can often guide you when you get overwhelmed by research. So plan on spending a lot of time in libraries. And also, the good thing about the technology today is you don't have to leave home uh, in all cases. Sometimes you do, you have to actually go physically, but you can get so much information from the internet. And my reference section, I have many, many pages in there many of them from Wikipedia because I wanted to make it easy for students who are like in grades 5 and in middle school and high school to pull up the information very quickly. And from being able to pull up information quickly, then they can begin to search deeper and deeper. At one point, I also went to the Mormons, the Latter-day Saints churches around the world have tons of information on genetics, and they often have information on your relatives. So they are also a good source. And the deeper you go, the more sources you will uncover. But it's
Fantastic. Fantastic. So, did you know when you were a kid that this, is what you would be doing? This journey of teaching and then researching and reconnecting with ancestors and reconnecting with your past. Was that something that you always knew inside, or is it something that developed? I kind of want to know the personal side of your journey and sort of the, how you made your way through that.
I was born in East Harlem, and we moved out of Harlem because heroin was used, and that completely changed. The Harlem that I lived in, we would the stairways and exit the building. And my grandmother would leave the front door open, would put a screen in and leave it open all day long while she was moving through the rest of the apartment. But once heroin came in, it changed, and we moved to Long Island City to a co-op built by a union. And I love libraries, but I also picked up dancing. I went to boarding school for a year and gained weight. And when I came back, I was referred by a cousin to New Dance Group. And then from New Dance Group, I got a dance scholarship at Martha Graham School of Dance. So I really wanted to dance. But just as my mother refused my desire to go south during the civil rights campaigns, she said, everybody knows we can shake our butts. Can't you do something else? And so I had a friend at West, and we used to talk on the bench about what we would do. And I said, my mother doesn't want dancing. She doesn't think it's stable enough. And my friend said, what's your second choice? I said, writing. Well, she came back the next week and said, her dad worked at the New York Times in the print room because they used print movable type in those days. That was before the computer came in. She said, my dad says there are going to be a lot of jobs opening up for reporters, and maybe you should try journalism. So the journalism was the second choice. But when I followed it, I was glad I did. I'm a lifelong fan of reading and libraries, but it gave me not only a platform, it gave me the security that I would need to live a middle class life in America.
What a great story.
Wow.
Harlem Shuffle to journalist. We were talking about the Chicago steps, weren't we, last week, Dr. Tiffany?
Yeah.
That is so funny. What a great story. Thanks for sharing that. I think Dr. Tiffany and I both were on a track maybe for music. We both sing. And occasionally we keep threatening that we're going to learn some duet to sing to break out on the show. But that, it's my BS, my belief system that you can do more than one thing, that life is way too short to just focus on one thing. And both these women certainly have proven that. Jean, I'm so glad that you were able to get that book out. It really doesn't matter how long it took. I want to take a little advice from you because of your history and your experience as an elementary school teacher, what is the message? So parents maybe have their kid come home and say, I was made fun of today because my skin color is not the same. Or on the flip side, a Caucasian child coming home and saying to his mom, I watched so-and-so make fun and beat up so-and-so because of the color of their skin. Can you give me what you think, because you've spent so much time with these kids, the best messaging that a parent can give their child in order to help them grow to be humankind, emphasis on kind, as we continue to face, I think, a resurgence because of what's going on with Trump and what's going on with Capitol Hill and all of that, a resurgence of the racism that the march, was so instrumental in beginning to dispel. What would you say?
I refer to the library. I had a little boy who was a fantastic reader, but he didn't really have the vocabulary. I spoke to his adopted mother after school, and I suggested the library. And she said, well, I have plenty of books at home. And I asked her what book she had, and I won't say the name of the publisher. I said, well, now those are good books, but what I want him to read is fine, Fine, fine children's literature. And she said, well, but I have all these books at home, and they were cartoonish books with no depth, entertainment and fun, but no depth. Was I surprised when a week or two later, this lady again came after school? She had a baby in the stroller and a little boy in my class, and she said, Miss Perry, now I know what you mean. I did what you said. I went to the library and I asked for fine children's literature. I had advised her, I said, the librarian will help you and you will, I think, see a difference. She said, I had no idea. Very often, parents themselves are not exposed to fine literature. My mother read to me from the Brothers Grimm and from Hans Christian Andersen from an early age, 4, 5. So that's what I mean when I say fine literature. It's very different from the commercial books and the comic books. Nothing wrong with those, but to get a real perspective for a full perspective, not just on what they see, but on what the world has to offer. It's the library. And you see a librarian say, I heard about this sponsored literature. I read a book, when God had 20 titles, they will be more than happy to lead you. And once you start reading from sponsored literature, just opens up the world.
I'm so glad I asked that question, because you didn't just give this is what you should say, but it's an exploration and an opening up solution. I want to give you something I don't give all my guests, Dr. Marissa's Beneficial Presence on the Planet Award, for the work that you've done, the work that you continue to do, specifically for that answer. I loved it. And with that, we're going to have to end. It's been delightful having you on, Jean Perry. Thank you for tuning in. At the end of every show, I do this little thing to close out. If you could put your peace sign up for me. Dr. Tiffany knows the drill, because it's all about balance. Peace in, peace out. World peace through inner peace. This is Dr. Marissa reporting live from my living room, with doctors in the house, with Dr. Marissa and
Dr. Tiffanie Tate.
and special guest Jean Perry. Thanks for joining us. Now go and have the best day ever. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you.